This is Dick WB2JPQ, and I'll be starting off tonight's East Coast Reflector TechNet number 642 on this October 7th. A very rainy day here in Western New York, but boy, do we need the rain. It could rain for about 3 or 4 days to catch us up. I know a lot of people are getting rain, and we've been long overdue. Like I said, this is Dick, WB2JPQ. I'll be along with Scott, W2BLT, Vicky, K8VKY, and the log, and Roger, KO4QMM. As always, we see if any of our team members have anything to report. And we see about silent keys. And there's one that popped up here tonight. This comes up out of our database from Lindsay, Ontario, Canada. And then we join us here, KD2TFB, and he will tell us the celebrity of the week. And we take a little break for new users to this net that have never checked in. Get them up at the top and let them say hello. And then we move on to stations with amateur radio related questions. Stations with amateur radio related questions. Speaking of questions, and our question tonight, and I'm hoping that we can have some good answers, but not real lengthy answers. What got you into ham radio? What got you into ham radio? Got to be something that inspired you and got you started and wanting you, to get into ham radio. Many are going to say once they dropped the code requirements, they got in, but that's good. So that's our question tonight. What got you into ham radio? Let me see if any of our system team members have anything that they would like to report this evening. Nothing from the team members. Kevin, E3BZ. Anything from the swap and shop tonight?
Yeah, good evening, Dick, and good evening, everyone. This is VE3BZ, Kevin, in Victoria Harbour, Ontario. I don't have anything for the swap and shop tonight, but I just want to remind everybody that the ECR does have a swap and shop. So let us help you, or if you're looking for something, maybe we can put the word out there for you and help you find it. So if you have anything to list for sale, or for sale, or something that you want, just email me at ve3bz@rogers.com with your items. Or go to eastcoastreflector.com, click on Contact ECR and SwapNet Submissions. And I'll get it posted in the appropriate places and read them here right on the net on Tuesday nights. And the question of the evening, let's see, I guess was through shortwave listening and scanner listening when I started hearing all the hams, especially on HF. Got me kind of interested in getting my own license. All right, that's it for me. Back to you, Dick, VE3BZ.
Well, thank you, Kevin. Thanks for all you do for the swap and shop, and we got you down for short wave listening. That probably will be one of the prominent answers here tonight, I'm sure. Moving along to silent keys, I have one. VE3MRV came out of our database. Merv from Lindsay, Ontario, Canada. VE3MRV. Mike Radio Victor. Does anyone have a silent key that they would like to have remembered here from the East Coast Reflector family? Well, hearing nothing, we can just have a moment of silence, please, for silent key from the East Coast Reflector database that popped up tonight. VE3MRV from Lindsay, Ontario, Canada. Thank you, everyone. And on the lighter side, Joe's here. Good evening, Joe. Enlighten us tonight, KD2TFB. Who is your celebrity of the week?
Well, we will find that out in a little while now. What got me into ham radio? I guess you could say K2EAG, Matt, who is around here. We both worked at Independent Health, and he's still working there. I'm not. And he heard me talking about various technical things and said, hey, you ought to go to this class I know of. And the rest, as they say, is history. So on to the Celebrity Call Sign of the Week. As many of these episodes, the primary source of information was the English language Wikipedia, and is subject to the Creative Commons Attribution Share Alike 4.0 license. John was born January 30th, 1955 in Bangor, Maine. Along with 7 siblings, he worked in the family business, the family's restaurant in Bangor. He graduated from Bangor High School in 1973 and earned a Bachelor of Arts degree in History from the University of Maine at Orono in 1986. John entered public life in 1978 at the age of 23, being elected to Bangor City Council. He went on to win the Bangor Area Maine State Senate seat, serving for 12 years. In 1994, he was elected to Maine's 2nd District in the U.S. House of Representatives. In 2002, he was elected Governor of Maine. This week's Celebrity Call Sign of the Week is Kilo Bravo 1, November X-Ray Papa, or KB1 NXT, belonging to John Baldacci. KD2 TFB, back to negative.
Well, thank you, John, or Joe. Thanks, Joe, for every week coming in here and his Celebrity of the Week for our ECR magazine, which is out in all outlets. So if you have not received this month's news magazine from the East Coast Reflector, you must not be signed up. You can sign yourself up, which hundreds have, I understand. bit.ly/ECR subscribe. ECR and the word subscribe. Let's move to new stations that have never checked into this net before. If you've never checked into this net, you might be a frequent flyer on the ECR, but maybe never checked in. Give us your call sign choice. We'll hear from you up at the top. Once again, this is Dick, WB2JPQ.
W2OFD checking in.
Kilo Foxtrot 8 Bravo Victor Whiskey. Kilo Foxtrot 8 Bravo Victor Whiskey.
Over 900 megahertz, blanket top, Mount Lemon in Tucson, Arizona. Kilo Juliet 7, Oscar Kilo Echo, Don in Tucson.
Don Little Hot coming in, KJ7 OK. KJ7 OK, Don, Tucson. We got KF8 BVW, Rochester Hills, Michigan. And I still have a question on the first one. W2 OF, is it Baker or Delta, the suffix?
W2 OFD is in dog.
Oh, thank you. My old ears are not failing me. I thought it was a Delta. Unfortunately, Joe, you have Ridge, New York, you have been in here before. You're coming up red, indicating that you have, this is not your first time. You've been in here once before. So I'll ask you to stand by and come in with the general call-ups after the questions and answers tonight. Let me go to Zachary, KF8BVW in Rochester Hills, Michigan. Good evening to you, Zach, and our question for you tonight is, what got you into ham radio? And good evening to you.
Hi everyone. Yes, what got me into ham radio? Growing up, my dad would play with CB radios every so often. I remember him putting one in his truck and having one put on the house. So I think the natural progression was to move into ham radio. So as I got older, I played around with the CBs as well, and then kind of stopped messing with that. And as I got a little bit older, I discovered amateur radio and got my license last year after having an HT for a couple of years and only listening. Decided I wanted to finally talk. So I got my license last year, and it's been history ever since. Back to net control.
And never looked back. Vicky's got some categories that we will use tonight. Obviously, shortwave is one that came up already. Friends and family so far. So she'll categorize things so we're not all over the place, and our pie chart will represent the best we can. As always, that information goes into the magazine, so if anybody wants to read it, this will be next month. It'll be there, and it's a lot of interesting. I think it'll be interesting to find out why people got into ham radio here tonight. So thank you, sir. Let's go to Don in Tucson, Arizona. KJ7OKE. Good evening.
Well, good evening. I'll back off the mic a little bit. I'm out on the street, so you probably pick up some more noise. The question is still what got me into amateur radio. Growing up, a friend's dad had a 45-foot tower on top of their 3-story apartment building. He had a 45-foot beam and 75 feet in the air, and this is in Chicago. So talked to Australia, no wires, no internet, and that planted a bug that's just been with me for the longest time. Also, the last 30 years, you use trunk radio system for my job. Back to that. Thanks for running it. KJ7OKE.
Thank you, Don. You're extremely hot. You said you backed off. You could have left the radio on the other side of the street, and we would have still heard you. So something's wrong there. Way too hot. What else do we have? New stations that have never checked into the East Coast Reflector before. Or, I'm sorry, have never checked into this net before. Oh, thanks twice.
WJR, Mike in Tucson, Arizona. First time on ECR, first time on the net.
The WJR, if you would key up, please. Wait a couple seconds and then give us your call sign. We're missing the prefix. I see you're coming in on on one of the digital bridges. Good evening.
Yeah, correct. This is W7WJR, Mike here in Tucson. Coming into DMR in Tucson, Arizona. First time on ECR in general. First time keying up the network.
All right, Michael, we sure do show you new from Tucson. And our question to you tonight, other than just a welcome, is what got you into ham radio?
Way back in the day, in the 70s and 80s, my grandfather was a ham. I always thought it was pretty interesting, but I didn't get in myself until last October, coming up on 1 year. And actually, I was just playing around and getting ready for trying to build some preparedness stuff, have backup communications in case natural disaster or anything like that. And I got my technician license last October. Quickly upgraded to general. I was not expecting the amount of fun I'd have with the hobby. I was going to use it mainly for emergency preparedness, and fell in love with the hobby, and never looked back. W7, WJR, back to my control.
I guess that's the words I used before. Never look back. Great, Michael. Great to have you with us, and you on the digital bridge here tonight. That was W7 WJR from Tucson. What else do we have that's new to this? Never checked in here. I'd like to get up at the top. Call signs twice, please.
K5.
Looks like whoever that is from K5 VPW looks to me or sounds to me like a dead battery. I'll move on and change your battery and come on back. Station's new to this net. Want to get in and say hello? Call signs twice.
Kilo Mike 4, Lima, Whiskey, KM4 LLW.
Bob, unfortunately our stats show that you have been in twice before. KM4 LLW. I ask you to please come in later after during general check-ins. And incidentally, general check-ins tonight is going to start with Roger on text check-ins. He will take 10 text check-ins. Scott will take 10 radio check-ins, and we'll alternate back and forth throughout the evening after the stations with questions tonight. And as always, you can text at 716-310-9050, 716-310-9050. Or if you want to send in an email, you can text at ecr.radio. Text at ecr.radio. You can text at any time. You'll go in the order that Vicki will put you in the order that you texted in. So as you text in now, you will obviously be at the bottom of the text line. You will get a confirmation back. Your text should include your call sign only, and you will get a confirmation back saying that it was received. And please only text in once. What else do I have? Stations new to this net. I'm trying to rush it here a little bit. I haven't got to questions yet. Stations that have never checked into this net before. K8ZY. Wow, Erie, Michigan. I didn't know we had an Erie, Michigan. There are more little places in Michigan than I ever dreamt of. Good evening, K8ZY.
The name is Griff, like Andy Griffith. Call me Griff though, not Andy. And yeah, we're located in Erie, Michigan, about 3 miles north of Toledo, Ohio, and about 3/4 of a mile off the marsh on the western end of Lake Erie.
Thanks, Griff. Our question tonight, if you were listening, is what got you into ham radio? What was your motivation to get your amateur radio license?
Grandfather on my mom's side
difficult copy. You're noisy into Jerry's repeater there in Oregon, Ohio. I don't know if Ben's KPWK's repeater in Toledo would be better for you or not, but you kind of faded out. So I think a lot of it's propagation tonight with you. But thank you for being there. Sorry we can't find you a closer access point, but thanks for being there. What else do we have? Stations that have never checked into this net before. Call signs twice. 22 past the hour. This is Tech WB to JPQ.
Kilo India 5, Juliet Quebec Whiskey, KI5 JQW.
Hey, good evening, Ryan. KI5JQW. Welcome. New to the system as a whole. Not only new to all three of these stations tonight are new to the system as well. Good evening, Ryan. What got you into amateur radio?
Hi, yeah, good evening, and good evening to everybody on the net. Well, I had always been interested in radio since a young child. My dad did a crystal radio kit with me when I was he was a tech when I was growing up and had some really neat analog transceivers in the basement, and I'm going to blank on what we had, but he had a really interesting setup in the basement that was always kind of shiny and cool. And then I got my tech in 2020 during the pandemic to try to be able to reach folks a little bit, and just got my general, because I'm trying to get into the HF and antennas and whatnot. But yeah, I think I got the interest in radio from my dad. So I'll say 7-3.
Thank you, Ryan. Crystal radio. That is something that I think everybody should build a crystal set, whether it's late in life or whether in their childhood. It was something that I did with my father. My father was not a ham, but of all the things I did with my father, building some crystal radios stands out in my mind. And I know I've said this probably over the 12 years that I've done this net many times. I can remember making the coil form out of a toilet paper roll form, or maybe it was paper napkins, I don't remember, but using that as a form and winding a coil and so forth, which is something that I did with my dad that always sticks out in my mind. I did many things with my father, but building some crystal radios is at the top of the pack. New stations that have never checked into this net before. We'll take a few more here tonight. Call signs twice. KO4 SKA. There's Wallace from Raleigh in North Carolina, KO4 SKA. Good evening, sir. What got you into ham radio? Welcome.
Well, I've just recently got into it myself, just maybe 2 or 3 years ago. But I was interested in radio a little bit. I remember my granddad had an old shortwave radio that I would listen, just receive only. And I never really did much with it, but I kind of always had in the back of my mind that I might like to play around with that stuff some more. So a few years ago, I decided to get licensed and start playing with it some.
I think family's going to be very prominent here tonight. It's good to see. Incidentally, I just had somebody earlier in the Zoom room ask how they could follow along on our log. For those of you that are new, I can give you our bit.ly address, bit.ly/ECR logs, East Coast Reflector logs, ECR logs. Or you can simply go to our website, eastcoastreflector.com, go to nets, and there's a little drop-down box, or there's a box there that you can click to follow along on the log. We don't have the fetch log up here tonight, but there's usually quite a number of people on there following along. Take a couple more stations if there are any left. Take two more if there are two more left. New stations that have never checked into this net before. November 8 Zulu Zulu Foxtrot Mobile. November 8 Zulu Zulu Foxtrot Mobile, Northern Michigan. Good evening, Patrick. Nice to see you coming in here tonight. I had a very nice conversation with the repeater owner this afternoon, KEHELB. And I'm glad you guys are on board with us, and it's great to have you. Patrick, N8ZF, what got you interested in ham radio?
I've always listened to the radio at night on an old Detrola, and it had shortwave and everything on it. Plus, my doctor was a ham. The neighbor that lived behind me was a ham. And even the guy I worked with at work, a couple of them, were also hams. So they got me interested in doing ham radio. But in my early days in that, I was doing CB radio and that, before I met all those guys. But once I met those guys and that, and they dropped the code requirement, I was able to get my technician license and hang out with a club that met every Saturday night or Saturday morning and that for breakfast. So got a lot of pointers and Elmers to help me out there. So I've always been enjoying ham radio ever since 1993. So other than that, I'll give it back to Nick Control. This is N8ZZF Mobile in Northern Michigan.
Maybe you weren't on the radio. It sounded like you might have been on a cell phone there. It didn't drop right away, but welcome. Nice to have you with us. And like I said, nice to have you guys with us. And Big Troll, I haven't heard that word for a long time. And there's something to look up. I might not be 100% on this, but Big Troll was the start of Motorola. I might want to research that a little bit, but I remember my days going to Schaumburg and going through their museum a number of times, and I'm pretty sure that Victrola, because that's how Motorola started, or that's how they actually started, was making Victrolas, if you will. So Victrola, Motorola, there's a little bit of history there. Take one more new station to this net. RCA. We'll take one from Waterloo, Ontario, Canada. RCA is all we heard. Good evening, sir. Please key up, wait a couple seconds, and give us your complete call sign. And what got you into ham radio tonight? Or what got you into ham radio and good evening tonight? Look like Vicky got it, VA3RCA. Good evening, Kevin. Well, you couldn't get away that fast. The VA3RCA. Kevin, are you still with me? Well, I guess not. He was coming in through through Waterloo. I forgot the call sign, but they're connected. VECWOO in Toronto, Ontario, Canada. Well, thanks for stations that came in here tonight to ask an amateur radio-related question. I I always say that's the meat and potatoes of this net. So we'd like to see if we can help you out. I'm not sure who's out there tonight, David or Charles, but we'll try to do our best to get an answer for you. So stations tonight with an amateur radio related question, please give us your call sign. We'll get you on the log. With amateur radio related questions, call signs twice, please.
MT, Kilo 2, Charlie Mike Tango.
KD4RHL. KD4RH.
Real sure the second one, KD4RAH, was it? Correct me on that, the last station, KD4RAH or something like that.
Kilowatt Delta 4, Romeo Hotel Lima.
Romeo Hotel Lima. Well, that changes everything. Good evening, Harris. We'll be with you in a minute. K2CMT. Hi, Mike. I guess I never heard your story. What got you interested in ham radio?
Well, Dick, I guess answer that one first. CB radio was my first entry, and at the time, back in the 60s, I was able to go to a few ham fests. They were called at the time. It's just like they are now, and my CPers all ended up there too. And that's where I got to meet some hams and find out the rest of the story. But I lingered around and had a life. Didn't do code too well in those days, and didn't get into it until about I guess 10 years ago. But finally got here. My question tonight, Dick, for TechNet, is, and this is for Charles primarily, I guess, is how important is the pattern for your ground radios on a vertical loaded antenna? Is it critical, or can it be somewhat subjective?
KC6 USM.
Go. Very well formatted question. Good evening, Cal.
Good evening, Dick, and everyone on the TechNet, and good evening, Mike. That's one of those things, Mike, where the ideal is to have them arranged, evenly 360 degrees. With that said, unless you're out in the middle of a 40-acre field, that probably just ain't going to happen. And in terms of impact on performance, it's actually fairly minor. Down on the lower bands, 160 and 80 meters, a little bit into 60 and maybe a touch into 40, it is more pronounced than what it is on the higher frequencies. But by and large, if you can get them relatively even, 360 degrees, without a whole lot of trouble, that's what I would do. But if you can't, for whatever reason, don't sweat that too much, Mike. It's still going to work for you. You're still going to get on the air, and you're still going to have some fun. Back over to you, Dick, KC6 USM.
Well, thank you, Charles. Thank you, Mike. Did it answer your question, Mike?
Certainly did, and I am having fun, and they are not in a 360 pattern. They're all over the place to some extent based on where I've got a bit space to run them. And sometimes they go out so far and turn around and come back. But thank you for the information, and it satisfies me. Back to you, Dick.
You know what I've said for many years, throw a piece of wire in here and have fun. Don't worry about it. Load anything up, just have some fun. Thanks, Mike. Good evening to Ernest, K84RH. And what got you into ham radio? We'll get that out of the way, and then we'll take your question. And this is Dick, WB2JPQ.
Well, Dick, probably what started it all about 55 years ago. I think it was my 10th Christmas. I unboxed my two Realistic Radio Shack handheld walkie-talkies that were on the CB frequency. I think at the time it was the Channel 10 for the Truckers channel. And I thought that was the greatest thing since Red. And that, I guess, started my fascination with radios, and eventually ended up in amateur.
I think you're the second one. Well, Mike, CB, but the two in a row, that I think that's going to be predominant answer here tonight as well, is CB. I think that brought a lot of people. I believe it was the end of 1958 is when the CB started, if I'm not mistaken. So previous to that will be other answers. And what was your question, Ernest? We got you as CB, and what was your question for us tonight?
I will add quickly that, believe it or not, I still have those walkie-talkies in the original box 55 years later. My question is, I have a Kenwood TM732A, which is a little over 30 years old, and suddenly the display began to blink, the DT, which is for the dual tone, as well as the send-receive meter, and began to display mute and lock. Unfortunately, the transmit channel and the receive VFO were on separate, where I could listen on one VFO and transmit on the other. The transmit still works and the receive still works, and the microphone, which is directly connected to the radio itself, will perform some functions. So I'm very confident it's in the control head somewhere. And I believe there's a little 5-volt battery in there, but I'm really not sure what's going on with that critter.
There is a battery in there. Does the display, is the display lit though? I have a reason I asked it. I have a 742. The tri-band radio. They were super expensive back in the day, and I had to replace the display on that about 10 years ago. It was the display itself. I don't know if that's the same with the 732, but does the display blank, or is the display lit?
So it is fully functional. I had it in storage for about 20 years, and I brought it back out of storage and been using it for a couple of months, and it literally was flawless, like brand new. The display is still fully lit. Everything is readable. Like I said, I can actually, on the receive VFO, I can use the microphone to up and down through the memory, and that part is still functional, and it will still transmit on the VFO that's stuck on the transmitter side. And like I said, everything is lit up. I'm suspecting that possibly that little battery in there.
see if anybody's had any problem with a 732 Alpha, but it's been in storage. I would highly suspect maybe start to look at some capacitors. Definitely the battery. Definitely the battery that's in there. It served its lifetime. Anybody help us out here on the 732A with a problem? Doesn't sound like we're gonna find anything for you here tonight. I'm sure you've probably Googled the problem, and I'm sure you're not the only one that has had that problem after all these years, but unfortunately it doesn't look like we're going to find an answer for you. But if you do find an answer, come back next week or whatever and tell us so we can all learn from that.
I plan on, following up with that, see if I can get it. I went ahead and bought a new Yaesu FTM 150, which I'm loving, but I will investigate. If I find something, I'll get back. Thank you, sir. I appreciate everything. KD4 RHL.
I'll tell you, those 730 series, 742, they have the best sounding audio. You can't beat them. Some of those older radios, transmit audio is just superb on those radios. I had one here, I can't even remember the model number, but it was one of the first dual banders that Kenwood ever made. It's just got superb transmit audio. Well, if we have stations with an amateur radio related question, call signs twice, we'll try to find you an answer here tonight. This is Dick, WB to JPQ.
OJB, November 0, Juliet Mike Bravo, name is Jason.
Well, something's not coming up quite right. Jason, why don't you give us your call sign twice again, if you would, please.
0, JMB, November 0, Juliet Mike Bravo.
Looks better. And 0 JMB. Good evening to you, sir. And we'll got you into ham radio, and go ahead with your question right after that.
Well, to be quite honest, I've always been into electronics, always into wireless communications. I started at Circuit City right out of high school as a temporary employee and just kind of went from there. So I worked retail sales and management for about 25 years, a lot of wireless, a lot of audio, video. I was one of those that, had a CB radio in the late 90s in high school and just kind of got back into things. I got my tech in June, my general in July, and my extra in August, and just got my first ham shack kind of set up. Before that, I was just running on HTE and mobile. And my question is, I recently bought a Yaesu FTM 510 ESP, and I purchased the RT systems for it, and I had some trouble getting a program with the SD card, but I got that figured out. But my actual question is, anytime now that I go in and update my frequency list or anything like that, and this is also true of my FT5, when I upload back from the memory card to the radio, even if I go in and make sure that my radio settings are how I want them, it sets all my radio settings back to default. It changes my frequencies and channels and stuff like I want. It return all the defaults. So like my shortcuts on my mic and my, preference settings on the LCD color and things like that, they always go back to default. And I'm just curious if anybody else has had that issue, and if I'm doing something wrong, or if it's a glitch in the software, or any help on that would be appreciated. N0 JMB.
Oh, that's nasty. Yeah, those are important settings. Once you get your mic gain and stuff set, I don't know how we'll put it out, but I would say if you paid that RT Systems, you said, I think that could be a very good question for RT Systems. It certainly should have saved with your, with your last backup. Put out the group. Anybody help Jason out? Anybody had that problem with RT Systems and the FTM 510 radio, not saving the radio settings themselves, mic level and so forth and so on?
W8CRW.
There's CR from Unionville, Pennsylvania. Good evening, CR. Before you answer the question, why don't you answer ours and then answer Jason's question. Thank you for jumping in.
Very good, very good. Back in the 1960s, I was a youth, and I was always interested in radio. I used to listen to the AM broadcast stations from long distance and things like that, and shortwave radio, and I had a CB antenna and a radio, and I got a record from Radio Shack and tried to learn the code, and I never got it down. So it's been a long time, but since now I'm retired and no more code, now I'm back on the air. So as far as the software, there's a checkbox in RT software where you can link the frequencies to your settings. And so you got to find that checkbox, link your frequencies and settings together back to net.
So you are saying that I could have channel 1 programmed for a mic gain, let's use the mic gain for a plus 10, and another talk group or another channel for a minus 10 by merely clicking that box. Is that what you're saying?
Negative. You can set your mic gain, but it's for everything. I don't believe you can set it per frequency. But I know for, and I don't have the 510, but I have several RT Systems programs, and they all have a checkbox someplace in there in the settings where when you go to save a new program, it keeps the settings and it changes the frequencies back to net.
Guess I had it just backwards. Jason, I don't know. That might be something for you to try. Do you think that could possibly be a culprit?
Well, it definitely sounds like it's an option. I appreciate the input, and next time I throw the SD card in there downstairs right now, but I will definitely give that a try. I suppose I could do it on my FT5. I'm sitting right here, but yeah, I just thought that was kind of weird. Now there's the option of doing, like, when you save, you can do memory, you can do all, and then there's one other option. I don't remember the third one, but I guess I've just always done all, thinking it would update everything that I had changed on the program. But I will definitely give that a try. I appreciate the shout out, and we will go from there. So thank you very much. I'll give it a try. N0JMB.
Thank you for your question. Thank you for reminding me of Circuit City. So I remember driving out to Niagara Falls Boulevard and going to Circuit City. Another big box company from the past. And Jason, you're a little bit hot. I'm not quite sure exactly what it is. I'm looking at you on something else here, and I think it might be your input level. I don't know if you're going through an extra radio or something, but maybe it's just your mic gain is up. But you are a little bit hot, and you get quite distorted on voice speak. So you might want to, listen to yourself. And for anyone, I know we've mentioned this over the last few months, and it's kind of our biggie here. We're pretty proud of it. Our view meter on our website, you can go and visually see where you are, what you look like, and so forth. And it's good for everybody. It doesn't matter what mode you're on, which is nice. Just anything that comes over ECR. So, if you're on Echolink, you can look at Echolink and vice versa. So, if you want to do that after the net, take a look at it. But you sound good. It's just a little bit hot. And we're really trying to get everybody equalized here over the next few months. And people have been great. The audio has improved over the last few months since we've done it. And people are really paying attention, and that's what it's all about. As always, be proud of what you sound like, because everybody has to listen to you. But it sounds good, just a little bit hot. So where am I here? Thanks to CJ for the answer. Let's take somebody else. Stations with an amateur radio related question. 52 past the hour. This is Dick, WB2JPQ.
November Uniform Golf, KE5 3 AWA with a comment on the Yasu programming.
Hi, Daryl. We got you in here, Daryl, VK3WA, and I think it was KJ5NUG or something like that. Let me verify the KJ5 twice, please.
Uniform Golf, KE5NUG, Kenny.
Well, KE5, that makes all the difference in the world, Kenny. I'll be right with you from Springfield. And Paradise Beach, Australia. Man, I don't know if you've ever seen Daryl's background, but I don't think I've seen a better background in his Zoom than a picture of Paradise Beach, Australia. VK3WA, your comment, please.
Yeah, good evening, Dick, and those listening. Just a comment. I use the Yasu programming software, which sounds very similar to what the gentleman's using. And my thought is that when you write to the SD card, you should write everything. In other words, all. And then when you take the card out and put it in the PC for programming, send all back to the radio. If you don't send all, it could be sending the default settings from the default file and just updating your memory only. So I would suggest reading all from the radio to the SD card and then writing all back when you made your changes. So
that makes a lot of sense, Daryl. What do you think about that, Jason?
JMB. To my understanding, that's what I did, but it's I'm still kind of a newbie here, so it's definitely possible that I missed a step in there. I mean, that's kind of what I thought I was doing, but I will double check that next time I program it. So thanks again for the input. N0 JMB.
Right, and the Huntsville, Alabama station, you called sign twice. Did you have a question or a comment, sir? November 8th, Officer Alpha Yankee, J, Huntsville, Alabama, comment on the Ocean Systems question. Right, coming in on the RT Systems question, you're a little bit shaky, a little bit, maybe you can get a little bit closer to your microphone, might help a little bit more audio, but we'll do our best. N8OAY, Dave from Huntsville, Alabama, good evening.
Okay, to answer your question, I started out with scanners, and shortwave listening, and just kind of rolled into ham radio. It's just kind of a natural progression. With regard to the RT system, let me through. With regard to the RT system question, if all else fails, go to their webpage. There's a link for email support. You can email them, even if it's a program that you have for a long time. Rod or Karen will be very happy to help you out. They reply pretty quick, and regardless of whether it's someone you've had for years or a brand new program, their help is really good. 8081, back to that.
Great, Dave. Look, he'll put you down for a scanner. That's our first, I think that's our first scanner category tonight. I didn't think about that, but I'm sure a lot of people were. Oh boy. Who remembers the old Bearcat scanners and everything was crystal, and have we come a long way or what? Thanks Dave. And Daryl, I'll let you, thanks for your comment, Daryl. I don't know if you want to wait around and check in again, but if not, why don't I take you now, and why don't you tell us what got you into ham radio all the way over there in Australia?
Yeah, good, Dick. Thanks for the question. Well, in the very early 70s, we were playing with CB radio, and there was no commercial CB radio available. So we were converting ex-valve radios and putting one crystal in them. So we had one crystal, and then when the first commercially available CB came into Australia, of course everyone went nuts and threw away their valve radios. And then I progressed from there to ham radio. I used to go to a store in the centre of the city where I was in Melbourne, and they had surplus resistors and components, and I used to go in and buy bits and pieces in that store, and the guy behind the counter was a ham radio operator, and he coaxed me into ham radio and got me some second-hand gear for HF, and I was away, Dick. Sorry, just playing electronics, which moved on to ham radio.
Sounds like your double A's just failed you, Daryl. Thanks for being there. Very interesting. Another one for CB. I just thank Roger in the Zoom room. This was his question tonight, KO4QM. We discussed it briefly during our 3:30 coffee today, and I said probably be some lengthy answers, but it'll get people talking, and I think it'll be interesting. And so far, it's been extremely interesting. So let me go to Dave. He's got a question in Springfield, Missouri. KE8NUG. Good evening, or Kenny rather. I'm sorry. Good evening, Kenny. Same for you. What got you into amateur radio, and then we'll take a question from you. E5NUG. Kenny, are you still with me?
2019 could not find a way to renew the license, lost, the license after the 12 years. And then I heard somebody on All-Star, and I said, I got to get my ham radio license to get that. So I got the tech, and then got the general, and then I said, I might as well get the extra before they change the questions. And so then got the extra class, and here I am talking on All-Star, one of the clear nodes, back to net control from KE5NUG. And as far as a question, does anybody know when the Kenwood 750 might make its appearance?
Back to net control from KE5NUG.
Sounds expensive, but I guess I don't know about the Kenwood 750, but who can enlighten us? What's going on with this Kenwood 750? Kenny would like to know. Guess we're not going to find an answer on that, but Kenny, what is the 750?
It's supposed to be a mobile radio. I'm going to call it the big brother to the Kenwood 75, which is a handheld radio. Does 2 meter for 40, 220, and D-Star. And so the Kenwood 750 is supposed to be the mobile rig of that. And it's supposed to do, I'm guessing, 2 meter for 40, 220, D-Star. And also, I don't know, have Wi-Fi built in, from what I hear. Of course, I say all this, and Kennywood could flip a switch and change everything. But I'm waiting for that to make its appearance, and it'll be sounds to me like a pretty good mobile radio. Back to net control from KE5NUG. W8CRW, comment.
There we go, huh? That looks nice. It looks real nice. Hey, thanks for bringing it up. We'll have to follow that and see who the first kid on the East Coast Reflector is with a 750. So, thank you, Kenny, for that. Alrighty, where are we? Top of the hour plus 3 minutes already here. Anybody else? Stations with an amateur radio related question.
W8CRW, comment.
I'm sorry, CR, I have to learn to look at my log sheet. Vicky had you right here with a comment and I just blew you off. Go ahead.
I opened up my computer and I have the actual settings for that that question. I have an FTM 500, so it should be pretty much the same. You go to Settings, Preferences, Other, and there's a radio button that says Keep Menu Settings and Frequencies in a single file. Then you save it.
Go now. I forgot who asked that question. Whoever asked that question, I forgot. But boy, was that? I think that's the answer that you were looking for on the Kenwood. Who that was with the station that asked the question on saving the settings? Are you still with us?
Jason? 510, but I did hear the response. Thank you.
Well, good. That sounds like a winner to me, and thank you very much, CR, for digging in. That's what makes this not a success. Hey, stations with amateur radio related questions. Who else do we have left out there tonight?
W2BW, W2 Papa Whiskey.
Good evening, press. You know the drill. Okay, yeah, I never did find out. I've known you for a lifetime here. What got you interested in ham radio?
Well, you played a role. When I was a kid, growing up in Buffalo,
I enjoyed taking radios apart. After a while, I was able to put them back together again. I think it was about 8 or 10 years old when I had a Radio Shack Patrolman radio, and I spinning the dial around the band, and I spun down to the bottom of the VHF band at 144 to 174, and I started hearing some very interesting conversations. And that's and the rest is history. And I remember hearing you and other people from Barra and whatnot. We're not going to take the time to call them all out, but I appreciate your tutelage as well. And I do have an amateur question. Back to you.
Oh, that's interesting, Plus. I knew that. I guess I never knew the history of that. Your question, please.
Yeah, in fact, I heard the guys talking about going to, I can't remember the name of the store, but it's up on Delaware Avenue, and they had to get together on Saturday mornings, and I went up there and said hello, and snot-nosed kid, and all that. Well, anyway, this is a very specific question. It's so specific that I believe that if anybody has any ideas for me, I'd like to hook up with them offline. The players in this drama are an MTR 2000, a repeater builder, STM32 card, an MFBVM card, and a lack of DMR. We're not talking network problems. We're logged in correctly to Brandmeister and everything like that. It's just that the live log only shows downlink received from W2PW on DMR. It does not hear anything from the portable. D-Star and Fusion work fine. It's strictly a DMR issue. So I could use some guidance on getting DMR to work on STM32 card in an MTR 2000 repeater. Back to net.
Oh, we'll see what you can do. It almost sounds like a PUT question, but I don't know if he's on here tonight, but we know how to get a hold of him. Anybody out there help us out? Doesn't sound like it pressed, but I think maybe Dan might have going guessing. I wrote down the information here. Maybe over the next few days we can get an answer for you. But thank you. And radio. And I believe what we were talking about is Genesee Radio. That was Genesee Radio at Delaware and whatever it was there. I think. So, does that ring a bell, Genesee Radio?
Bingo. West side of Delaware, just north of Hurdle, I think it was. Anyway, yeah, I do appreciate that. You know, by the way, I've been working with Rob on this for a couple of weeks. He's one of the best. I'm one of the best, and this is just kicking my butt. So, we'll talk to you later. Thanks, Dick. Thanks for doing the net. And count this as my check-in. W2PW. Oh.
We will count that and say hello to Rob for us. And, you know, we're trying to maybe put a little question and answer together. I don't know if you saw on Facebook. There's always questions on repeaters and how to use an ISO-T and how to check for, you know, usable sensitivity, how to check if the desense is inside or outside. And let's roll a little something together in the Zoom room. Just a question and answer, nothing formal. I'm trying to get a list together and get the word out. I have no idea when. As you know, we only have one Thursday night or one night in ECR free per month. And that's a Thursday. I don't know exactly which one that is, but so it'll probably be on a Thursday night, but certainly get you and Rob there involved. But more to come. Might be a month or so away, but Dan, myself, and a couple others we'd like to try to help repeater owners out. So really want to get the repeater owners, if we can, to answer some questions. Hey, how can I make my repeater better, or what can I do to do this, and so forth and so on. So I'm sure we can count you guys in. Station with amateur radio related question. This is Dick, WB to JPQ. Going once, going twice. Anybody else tonight with an amateur radio related question before I send it over to Roger for general text check-in? Looking at the log here, see we got a pretty good group of text check-ins. He's going to do 10 and then turn it over to Scott. 10 radio check-ins will continue on through the evening like that. Last call for amateur radio related questions. Alright, hearing nothing. I will see you all tomorrow morning on the open for the morning brew. And you know what? I think we might talk about junk drawers tomorrow morning. It's been on my mind the last few days, so maybe that might be the morning brew question. So study up tonight, and we want to know about your junk. We might want to know tomorrow morning if you have a junk drawer in your house. I think every house has a junk drawer. Roger, it's all yours. KO4QMM. Thank you, Vicky, for logging. See everybody later. This is WB to JPQ.
Well, thank you, Dick. This is KO4QMM, Roger in Central Florida. I'll be your net controller for the TechNet for the next 10 text check-ins. Vicky already has them lined up there, and thank you, Vicky, K8VKY. And about the question tonight, what got you into ham radio? I think what I scared Dick a little bit about is I started telling him my story, and he's like, oh, geez, we don't have 15 minutes. So I had to make it a little bit quicker. But listening to the East Coast Reflector on my handy talk is what got me. All right, bottom of the list here, working our way up. KQ4GLY, Chris, Parish, Florida. K7FPS, Fred, Reno, Nevada. K6AAN, Mike, Valley Springs, California. KD3ATQ, Jim, Easton, PA. KK4SED, Les, Claremont, Florida. WA2UUS, Joel, Buffalo, New York. KC6UFM, Charles, Cathay, California. KA8BYU, Roy, Blaisdell, New York. KD2JPP, Bob, Gallatin, Tennessee. Top of the list, KFOMHN, Bill, East Bethel, Minnesota. Good morning, Bill. And what got you into ham radio? Go ahead. Bill, I thought maybe we're getting ID'd or something. KFOMHN. Must have been a hit and run. All right, we're going to move on to you, Bob Gallatin, Tennessee. KD2JPP. Good evening, Bob.
Hey, good evening, Roger. Hopefully you have me. As far as the question, first it was shortwave and scanner listening, then it was the CD craze, then back to ham radio for a neighbor, so I guess it was shortwave listening.
You got it, my friend. Sound good tonight. Thanks for joining us. Let's move on to Roy, Blaisdell, New York, K8BYU. Good evening, Roy.
Evening, everybody on TechNet, KA8BYU. Well, bought a shortwave receiver when I was 16 years old. Got the CB license when I turned 18 because my parents didn't want to. And I joined the Civil Air Patrol and the Civil Defense. And a bunch of the guys in both of those organizations were hams, and they ended up kept on saying, hey, you got to get your license, you got to get your license. And I did. And coming up on 48 years later, I still enjoy it every single day. See everybody on the morning brew and all that. Back to you, KA8BYU.
Good story, Roy. Thanks for joining us tonight. And yeah, it hit me during COVID, and man, I was like a duck to water. I just couldn't get enough information. Thanks goodness I found the Zoom room and made that place my home. All right, let's move on to Charles, Catay, California, KC6 UFM. Good evening, Charles, and what got you into ham radio?
Good evening, Roger, and everyone out there on the TechNet tonight. This is Charles, KC6 UFM in beautiful downtown Guatay, California. Many thanks to Vicki for logging, and you and Scott and Dick for herding the cats tonight. But as far as what got me into ham radio, I'm going to have to let Vicki make a judgment call on this one, because it was a little bit family and a little bit CB radio. I grew up on a family farm, and in the very early 60s, we started using CB radios to stay in touch, when we were out in the field and so forth and back at the house. And, that worked out real well. And then as I got a little bit older, my dad and my uncle, who kind of co-ran the farm, they started getting into CB big terms, and by big I mean high wattage terms. And my dad did a little bit of radio and TV repair on the side. He had gone to oh golly, I can't remember the name of that tech college that he went to, but he went to one and eventually became ITT Tech. But he introduced me to electronics, and Dick talking about building his first crystal radio. Being from Missouri there, I built my first crystal radio using a crystal that I found on the ground, because there's a whole lot of galena back there from the lead mining. And just things kind of took off from there. The life kind of got in the way for a few years, but finally got back to it, and just absolutely love it. So I'll turn it back over to you, Roger. Everyone have a great evening and stay safe. 7-3. This is KC6 UFM, back to net control.
QSL, Charles. Sounds like you learned a lot there from your father, watching him do some stuff, and thanks for joining us tonight. Always appreciate it. Let's move on to Joel, Buffalo, New York, WA2UUS. Good evening, Joel.
Good evening, Roger, and everyone else on the net. As to the question tonight, it's a combination of many things. When decades ago, I got interested in messing around with things and crystal set and fixing things, and my uncle was an electrician, and he gave me some meters, soldering iron, and a couple tools, and I started messing around with more things. And my eldest sister was dating somebody who was a ham radio operator, and he basically helped get me started, and then I became a novice and helped build some things. I wish everyone a nice week ahead. Be well and be safe. And thank you, Roger and Vicki.
Thanks for joining us, Joel. Appreciate it. You have a wonderful evening there. Let's move on to Les, Claremont, Florida, KK4SED. Good evening, Les, and what got you into ham radio?
When I was a member of the Civil Air Patrol in Erie, Pennsylvania. So late 50s, early 60s. Used to
access then, and went from there. KK4 SED back to net.
All right, Les, you have a wonderful evening there. Thanks for joining us. This is Roger in Central Florida with the Tuesday Night TechNet KO4QMM. Moving on to Jim, Easton, PA, KD3ATQ. Good evening, Jim.
Good evening, Roger, Vicky, and the rest of the TechNet. My earliest memories are probably with my grandfather. We did all kinds of little projects, wound electric motors, built crystal radios. But in his living room, he had a shortwave, well, an AM radio, but then a shortwave band on it. And we used to stay up late at night, tune in stations. And I guess it just went from there. I've been a geek all my life. Back to net control, KD3ATQ.
Sounds pretty cool. Closest I got to one of those was one of those old portable radios that had shortwave and stuff, and I had no clue. I had no clue when I hardly became a technician. It took a lot of learning there. Thanks for joining us. Let's move on to Mike, Valley Springs, California, K6AAN. Good evening, Mike. K6AAN. Mike, are you there? Maybe he got a pizza delivery. It's still early there in California. On to Fred, Reno, Nevada, K7FPS. Good evening, Fred. What got you into ham radio?
Hey, Roger, Vicky, and everyone on the net. Short answer was, and I have a 15-minute backstory, so I'm not going to get into it that much, but I went to a show here and got tired of FRS radios, and one guy was selling these UV5Rs. And I said, you know, I want those. And, you know, I'm 60 plus at this point. And they said, you need a license for that. And that's what took me down to actually do the tech and the general. But yes, back in my youth, I did CB radio and shortwave radios, and yes, I built crystal radios from the Radio Shack 50-in-1 project kit with a little spring connector that you used to connect the wires together. Anyway, enough of that. K7FPS, back to net.
Oh, yeah, that's what scared Dick about the question, because I spent 15 minutes easy, and I barely got started, so I'm with you. There's a lot to it, but there's a quick answer, too. All right, the last of my list here is Chris, Parish, Florida, KQ4GLY. Good evening, Chris.
Good evening, Roger, and everyone on the net. What got me into ham radio was for emergency communications. Back to you, Roger.
That was a quick answer there. Appreciate you showing up and enjoying the evening with us, Chris. And that's it for the text check-ins. Next will be W2BLT, my buddy Scott, doing call-ins, radio check-ins. And if you do want a text check-in, the number is 716-317-9050. And you can text in, and you can also follow the log if you go to eastcoastreflector.com,
check out Nets, and check out TechNet. All right, Scott, up to you. KO4QMM clear.
Thank you, Roger. This is Scott W2BLT in Buffalo, New York. And let's take some check-ins from anybody, anywhere. Please come with your call sign twice. WB3GTM. Whiskey Baker 3, Golf, Tango, Mike.
K2EHI, Kilo, Echo 2, Echo, Hotel India, Mobile, in and out.
November 4, Romeo, Hotel, Echo. KD2VNU, KD2VNU. Charlie 3, Foxtrot Golf, Delta, Delta X,
It is 2 Echo Charlie.
V44 Hotel Echo,
2 Echo Charlie.
44 Hotel Echo, V44 Hotel Echo.
King George 7, George, Ben Lincoln. King George 7, George, Ben Lincoln.
Alrighty, let's hold it up there. Let's hold it up there for a minute. That's the last station there, the KJ7. Could you give me that call sign again, please, slowly?
King George 7, George, Ben Lincoln.
We're going to try it one more time there. We had King George 7, George something.
King 7, Ben Lincoln.
Alrighty, are you you aren't Jay in Idaho, are you?
And
I'm going to try it one more time. Give that to me again there, KG7 station, and give it to me all phonetically, normal phonetics.
that's K, G, 7, G, B, L. K, G, 7, G, B, L.
Oregon there, KD7, GBL.
We're in Oregon. Portland, Oregon. We at Portland, Oregon.
Alrighty, we got you finally. Better late than never. Alright, let me recognize Kelly up in Medford, Oregon. We got Victor 44, HE Edwards, ZS2EC, Tom, N1, NDN, Bernie, 9Y4DX, Bertrand, KC3FGD, Ray, K2, VNU, Derby Dan, N4, RHE, Roger, KE2, EHI, Joel Westfield was in and out, and at the top of this list, WB3GTM, Mike in Westford, Vermont. Question of the night is, what got you into ham radio? Good evening, Mike.
Good evening, Scott. Good evening, Net Control Ops, everyone on the net. This is Mike WB3GTM. Great to hear everyone tonight. Good to hear you, Scott.
To be short and sweet on the answer, I believe it was probably in the 70s of the CB popularity and having aspirations of learning electronics in my later high school years. And of course with ham radio and being able to enjoy both worlds of long-distance communications and getting into electronics. It worked out great. Hey, thanks for running in net. Thanks for checking me in. 7-3, I'm back to net control. This is WB3GTM.
Alrighty, Mike, thanks for joining us, and you have yourself a good rest of the evening. N4 RHE Roger in Fort Lauderdale, Florida. Good evening, Roger.
W2BLT, good evening, Scott. November 4, Romeo Hotel Echo. I started with a factory-installed CB radio in my Cadillac Brome de Elegance. Then on to Marine VHF, and the bigger boats had HF Weatherfax radios. Then my lodge brother, W4 ROA Silent Key, my Elmer, worked for Motorola and built and delivered to NASA the first space shuttle ham radio. And he's the reason why all U.S. astronauts are ham operators. November 4, Roger, ham enthusiast. Return to net.
Alrighty, Roger. Very interesting. Have yourself a good night, and we'll talk to you Thursday morning. Next up, KD2 VNU, one of our team members here, Derby Dan in Derby, New York. Good evening, Dan.
Good evening, Scott. Good evening to everybody on the net. Boy, that's a tough one to beat from Roger there. But I started with CB radio, scanners, shortwave, and that led into a career of communications for me until I retired. So I'll keep it short. This is KD2VNU. Return it back to you.
Hey, thanks, Dan. Good to talk to you again. Have a good evening. TC3FGD, Ray in Elizabethtown, Pennsylvania. Good evening.
Hey, good evening, Scott. Everyone on the net here. Well, way back in the early 60s, I had a real good friend down in New Jersey. We were living down there at the time. He was a big-time electronics guy and wanted me to get involved in radio. I had a CB at the time and was going to do it, and I got real busy with work and dropped it. And 12, 13 years ago, when I moved here in the Masonic Village in Elizabethtown, one of the members here of the club decided to give a course, and there it was. I got my novice and general, and here I am. Wonderful thing I did. I love it. Back to you, Scott.
Sounds good, Ray. Thanks for joining us this evening, and have a great evening. Next up, let's go to Bertrand in 9Y4DX in Trinidad and Tobago. Good evening, Bertrand.
Well, pleasant evening to you, Net Control, Scott, W2BLT. This is 9Y4DX, Bertrand, and my QTA, Trinidad and Tobago in the Caribbean. Well, let me extend the pleasant evening to all stations this Tuesday evening and the East Coast Reflector TechNet, today being the 7th of October. Hope everyone is doing well and safe. Well, Trinidad, today we experienced out of the blues. I don't know if anything in history, but we had a tornado touching down in Trinidad today, just after midday. And it did some damages to the western end of the island, northwest, that is, and central, so that we have experienced a tornado here in Trinidad. But with respect to your question, I was working at the City Hall Port of Spain, and there was a call for employees to attend a workshop for disaster preparedness. And that is where I found out about radio. And I got interested. We were trained, we did the course, and I got my license. So that's how I got involved in radio. Back to you, Net Control, W2BLT. This is 9Y4DX.
Alrighty, thanks for joining us, Bertrand. I'm glad the tornado wasn't too close to you. And you have yourself a fine week. Thanks for being here tonight. Let's go to N1, NDN, Bernie in Hudson Falls, New York. Good evening. N1, NDN. Bernie, are you with us? Nothing heard. Let's go to Tom. ZS2EC in Port Elizabeth in the Eastern Cape of South Africa. Good evening, Tom.
Good evening to you. Good morning to everybody. Local time here, 3:38 a.m. 8th of October. Well, it's IMT. There is Stuart L. Bravo. He got me interested in ham radio, and he was a post office inspector for Chicken Band Radio. Back to you, Scott.
Thanks, Tom. Appreciate it. You have yourself a great rest of your day there. Seems like you're just starting it. Let's go to Edward, Victor 44, HE in St. Kitts and Nevis. Good evening, Edward. The question of the evening is, what got you into ham radio?
Okay, good evening to all on frequency. Good evening to Scott. My hobby in ham radio, I was a CBO for a long time, and then as we say, we upgrade and become a ham. Scotty, have a good evening, and good evening to everybody on frequency. Victor 44 Hotel Echo. Back he goes to you. Over.
Alrighty, thank you, Edward. Always good to hear from our ham buddies down there in St. Kitts and Nevis. Have a great evening. Last one for me here is KD7 GBL. Kelly of Medford, Oregon. Good evening.
KD7 GBL is in Portland, Oregon. I got in trouble on CB radio all the time. That's why I watch the ham.
Well, alrighty. Glad you became a ham. You have yourself a good evening, and stop back again. Alrighty, folks, we're going to turn it back over to Roger to take some more text check-ins, and I'll be back for some more radio check-ins. This is W2BLT.
Well, thank you, Mr. Scott. This is KO4QMM, Roger in Central Florida. Don't mind us going back and forth like this, text and radio, but we're having some fun. I'm enjoying it, and I'm sure you'll let us know. And looks like we got another 6 text check-ins Vicky's got up there for me, starting from the bottom. N6ZAR, Scott, Eastville, California. KI5PMI, Bill, Hobbs, New Mexico. W2AJR, Andy, Cheektowaga, New York. K5HLH, Grants, New Mexico. WB8ODF, Dave, Ypsilanti, Michigan. KM7CGI, Larry, Maricopa, Arizona. It's up to you, Larry. What got you into ham radio? And good evening.
Well,
try again there, Larry. Your battery either died or something. Come on back. Seems like you're trying, just not getting there. Let's move on to my buddy Dave, Ypsilanti, Michigan. WB8ODF. Good evening, Dave, and what got you into ham radio?
Good evening, Roger and Scott. Haven't talked to you in a while. And Vicki, thank you for logging. I don't know how you do it morning, noon, and night. And Dick, thanks for opening the net up. 3 doors down from me, I watched a new family move in, and they erected a 40-foot tower. And the biggest antenna I have ever seen in my life, and I had to be part of it. He had 6 kids. And one was my age, so I got to go into the basement and see his ham shack, and I was hooked. I didn't do any of the CB stuff. I had my novice license during that Smoke in the Bandit era. But I would rather go home and look for DX than talk to people that were pretty nasty all the time on CB. So that's how I got in. It was the neighbor's fault, and you can blame him. This is Dave, WB8ODF.
Well, I'm glad they got you into it, Dave. It's been good knowing you all these years, and probably learned a couple things from you. You never know. Fun walking around Hamcation looking at those hex beams and such. You have a great day, and thanks for joining us. Let's move on to Harry, Grants, New Mexico, K5HLH. Good evening, Harry.
Good evening. This is K5HLH, Grants, New Mexico. We've got you connected to the Small County Amateur Radio Club Network on Mount Taylor. Well, let me see. I guess we'll skip over the high school days. And I think in 2005, while working with the county government, I met an emergency manager. Her husband and her were both hams, and I had to get a recommendation from her to get my technician ticket there so I could work with a lot of these ham volunteers in communication for the county government and emergency management. So other than that, thanks for running the net. Good evening to everyone. K5HLH. Back.
Thank you, Harry, for joining us this evening. This is KO4QMM, Roger in Central Florida. And me and a friend had a GMRS license so we could talk to each other while we were trail riding. And that wasn't near enough. I wanted more, and I was hearing a kid got a license on the East Coast Reflector. He was 14 years old, got the technician license. I said, I can do that, and blah, blah, blah. That's a little wee bit more of my story. Let's move on to Andy and hear his story. Cheektowaga, New York, W2AJR. Good evening, Andy.
Good evening, Roger. Everybody in the net. I started in ham radio through prepping. A bunch of prepper buddies that I know, they were all getting their amateur radio licenses. They were talking about these foul-fang radios that you could get on Amazon for $25. So I grabbed me one and fired it up and programmed with chirp. And what's the first thing I heard? It was the TechNet. And I was hooked after that. So 7-3, everybody have a great week. Thank you, Roger.
Right, I was so amazed at how clear you could see people from all over the place. I was hooked. It sucked me right in. Don't blame you, Bill. Thanks for joining us this evening. And yeah, that was Bill, Hobbs, New Mexico. Let's move on to, was that Andy or Bill? No, let's move on to Bill, right? All right, I got head shaking yes in the room. Sometimes you got to get confirmation. Thanks, Andy. Let's move on to Bill, Hobbs, New Mexico. KI5PMI. Good evening, Bill.
Good evening, Roger, everybody on the net. Years ago, I had an acquaintance that told me about ham radio, kind of explained it and what all they did and stuff. So it stuck in my head, and then long story short, when COVID come around, I had some extra time, so I just pushed it off and studied and got my tech, and then now I'm sitting at amateur extra, so that's just how that goes. I hope everybody has a good evening. KI5PM, back to that.
Well, it's been a fun evening for me, Bill, just listening to how everybody it got into ham radio. So thanks for joining us. And last on my list is Scott, East Vale, California, N6ZAR. Good evening, Scott.
Good evening, Roger, Vicky, and everybody on the net. Yeah, my journey in ham radio has been very short. I went on a hunting trip in February of this year, and everyone was using GMRS radios to keep in touch. And on the way home from the trip, I ordered my first ham radio, got my GMRS license, and like you, it wasn't enough. And so in April, I got my technician's license. I have been very active in digital, but now I'm studying up to do the general so I can move into HF and take it even further. So that's my short story. N6ZAR, back to you.
Well, thank you for joining us, Scott, this evening. And yeah, I got it bad, that's for sure. I think I'm going to be putting my hex beam up. We got the 20-meter net Thursday, 10 a.m., 14.37, give or take, and hopefully anybody there with the license of general or higher can join us. We have a lot of fun. And there's some other nets. There's the Wednesday 8 p.m. open mic night, which is tomorrow night, and then there's the Friday youth net, 8 p.m., so keep you busy and listen to the radio. That's it for me tonight. I guess Scott's going to probably take it home from here. Thanks everybody for joining us this evening. This is KO4QMM. Back to you, W2BLT.
Thank you, Roger. Fine job as always. Appreciate it. Alrighty, folks, let's take more radio check-ins. Anybody, anywhere, please come with your call sign twice.
N2B8. N2B8.
N1YKT.
Foxtrot Hotel Echo. Quebec 4, Foxtrot Hotel Echo.
KC2LEF. KC2LEF.
This is November 5, Zulu, India, Quebec. N5, Zulu, India, Quebec. ZIQ, Moy, down in Houston.
Victor Alpha 3, Yankee Bravo Sierra. Victor Alpha 3, Yankee Bravo Sierra. Bill and Sunville.
All right, let's hold it up there for a moment. Recognizing from the bottom up, we had VA3 YBS, Bill. 5 ZIQ, Moy out in Houston, Texas. We got KC2LAF, Ray. WB1DXN, Daryl came in on the text line. We got KQ4 FHE, Pat and Harvest.
N1YKT, Johnny in Hopkinsville, Kentucky, N2BH, Bill in Palmyra, New York. Is there anybody I missed in there? Please come now twice.
K2SBM, Sean from Greensboro, North Carolina.
86 CWI, Ruben in Fallbrook, North County, San Diego. Good evening.
KC1 QPL, KC1 QPL.
November 3, Tango Juliet Kilo. November 3, Tango Juliet Kilo. Tim in Pasadena, Maryland.
Alrighty, let's hold it up there. I don't know if somebody was trying to get in from Grand Rapids, but it was just static. Let me add these N3 TJK, Timothy, KC1 QPL, John, W2 KJV, Tony, KD6 CWI, Ruben, and K2SBM, Sean in Greensboro, and I acknowledge the rest. Let's go to the top of this list. We'll run them, and then we'll take some more. N2BH, Bill, one of your hosts on the Morning Brew here on East Coast Reflector in Palmyra, New York. Good evening, Bill, and the question of the evening, what got you into ham radio?
Hey, good evening, Scott, Roger, Vicky, Dick, everybody. Like most, I started out in CB and then scanners and that, and pretty much every career I had, I ended up using radios all the time, and after I retired, and especially during COVID there, kind of missed all the radio traffic and stuff, and got my GMRS license, but that very limited, and so I got my technician, and a month later got my general, and spring I got the extra, N2BH.
There you go. Thanks for joining us, Bill, and have a good evening. Next up, N1 YKT, Johnny up in Hopkinsville, Kentucky. Good evening.
Good evening, sir. It started right around the late 80s somewhere. Neighbor passed away. His family threw away all his radios. I collected them from the dumpster and started playing around with them. N1YKT CB, it'll have to be CB.
Alrighty, CB it is. Have yourself a great evening, and thanks for joining us. KQ4 FAG, Pat in Harvest, Alabama. Good evening, Pat.
Scott and everybody else on the net. This is KQ4FAG. I got involved with CB radio back during the CB boom in the late 70s. And I got to the point where I wanted to talk to people in different states, different countries. I found out about amateur radio. So I studied, I learned the Morse code, and I passed all the tests. And I got my license and really enjoyed it. Let my license expire. I became inactive, and about 3 years ago when I retired, I met a friend, and he was a ham operator, and he rekindled my interest, so I took all the tests again, passed all the tests, and I've been active since then. 73 to everybody. Back to you, Scott.
Well, thank
Thank you, Pat. Very interesting. You have yourself a good evening. This is W2BLT. Next up at WB1 DXN at Daryl in Epsom, New Hampshire. Good evening.
Good evening to the net. I think it's Vicky and Scott, is it? Good evening. I guess mine was kind of an evolution, somehow or another, as a kid growing up on a farm in California. And then the younger brother, he got interested somehow in some radios, and I nosed my way in there and got a little interested in it. And then I went on to try to be an electronics technician, and at some point started doing some training on for getting my novice license. So I think I'm not 100% sure of the call, but I had WN6DJS, I think, in California. And also had at some point in there, I had a CB radio playing around with that. And then finally, eventually, I ended up with a job in New Hampshire. And one of them out, I went to another one, and the boss knew I was interested in radio stuff. He sent me to a first-class radio license down in Massachusetts. And at the 15th week of training, the teacher sent me in to see what the test was like, and I could either go home or I could stay the following week if I came back and told them what was in the test and things like that. And then it just kind of developed a little bit from there, and standby one. And then I, at some point, got some HF equipment, strung some antennas from some trees to the back of the house and some other things, and then eventually we moved to South Carolina, dropped out of some of the stuff, and because in a homeowners association it's kind of tough to put up antennas, and I wasn't very active. Some other things was going on with the wife. She really didn't like my hobby anyway, but and then anyway, some things happened and I was out of it for a while, and around 2023, or I think it was, or maybe 2022, the second wife's son is an amateur radio operator, and he renewed my interest, and it was a good thing because it was some things then were going on, and it was a good thing to keep me active doing something. And now I'm back up in New Hampshire, and all I got really right now to play with is UHF and VHF. So that's kind of my story. Probably a lot more to it, but I got to cut it short. Thanks for listening. Everybody have a great day, a great evening, and keep it safe. WB1DXN.
Well, that's quite a story, Daryl. Thanks for joining us tonight, and you have yourself a good evening. Next up, KC2 LEF. Ray, right up the road from me in Gettsville, New York. Good evening, Ray.
I got the bike when I was back in high school. My shop teacher hated the ham, and the high school had gotten him a kilowatt amplifier along with a Reflector transceiver and a beam on the roof. And I sat there and listened to that, and I had my novice ticket, and off I went. Back to that. Ray KC2 LEF.
Alrighty, thanks, Ray. Appreciate you joining us, and have a good evening. Next up, N5 ZIQ. Boy, out in Houston, Texas. Good evening.
Good evening, sir. How are y'all tonight? I guess it was a pretty start. I got interested in CB when I was younger, of course, and then kind of evolved my interest a little bit, and got into engineering in college, and finally got to thinking about it. And man, this is really interesting. So I kind of found another couple of opportunities, and then a buddy of mine got me started back in 1998.
at work, and we got a pair of old HTX 202s, and asked our technician at that time, and just kind of let it evolve for a couple of years, and then we lost some. I lost my two radios in my vehicle, got stolen, and then oh well, it kind of evolved through work there for a bit, and then let me take a break. N5 ZIQ returning. Yeah, so I have my brother-in-law up in North Tonawanda, Buffalo, W2FJY, Jeff, now Silent Key. He got me interested, and actually willed me some of his old equipment that I have here now in Houston. And I'm kind of learning that and progressing along, about to learn my general, studying for that test, and hopefully I'm going to move ahead here at some point shortly. Got to hang up an antenna somewhere, but I'm very interested for sure.
Well, good luck with your studies, and have a great evening. Thanks for joining us. VA3YBS, Bill in Dunnville, Ontario, Canada. Good evening, Bill.
Good evening, Scott and Vicki and everybody on the net tonight. I just got my license in June of this year, and I'd have to say that it was emergency communications that got me interested. About a year and a half ago, I got involved with a local community support group, and we looked at a lot of things that you could do in times of emergency, and of course communications was one of them. A couple people there had their ham license, so I started playing around with GMRS. GMRS in Canada is very different than it is in the U.S. It's much more limited in power. There's no repeaters, so you're pretty limited what you can do. So this spring I looked into getting my ham license, started doing the studying, and went and wrote the exam and got my, in Canada it's called a basic. I've got a basic with honors, which I think is roughly equivalent to a general in the U.S. I'm going to take a break. I just wanted to add my dad was a signalman back in the World War and in the Navy, and he knew CW. That's what he did. He did Morse code, and I still have a key that was his. I don't know if it was from the war, but it was a key that he had when I was a young boy. So I haven't got my Morse code qualification. Is something I might think about. But anyway, I've gone on long enough. I'll give it back to you, Scott. Thanks for doing the net tonight. Really appreciate it. VA3YBS.
All right, thank you, Bill. Appreciate you joining us, and have a good time. K2SBM, Sean in Greensboro, North Carolina. Good evening. K2SBM, Sean, are you still with us? Was that a good call sign? Anybody that ended in Bravo, Michael. Maybe he's a little shy. Let's go to Ruben, KD6CWI out in Fallbrook, California. Good evening, Ruben. Ruben, don't hang me out to dry, buddy. KD6CWI.
Mark him is in and out there tonight. W2 KJV, Tony in Homosassa, Florida. Good evening, Tony.
Tonight, my story is a series of events. My father was real proud of a crystal radio he had, and he had some shortwave radios that started me off. And later, as a kid, I got a couple of walkie-talkies, and eventually I got a CB radio with a sideband, and came in very handy during a blizzard of 77 up in Buffalo. And then not until the 90s, I had some friends that were hams, and they got me started and became a ham. And that's my story. Back to you, Scott. Have a great night.
Alrighty, thanks, Tony. Have a good evening. Appreciate all you do. This is W2BLT. Next up, KC1 QPL. John. Good evening, John, wherever you are.
Well, good evening, Dr. Smooth. You East Coast facilitators could make a jazz band. PLT and the Groove Merchants. It's good to hear you, good to be with you. I got interested in ham radio because I loved walkie-talkies already, and I saw an episode of the Munsters. And Grandpa and Herman had a ham radio set, and some kids on walkie-talkies convinced them they were from Mars. And I happened to have a neighbor, W0KOW, rest in peace, my friend, Silent T. Earl MP, who was a ham operator. And I went over to his house and introduced myself and asked him to tell me about ham radio. And he turned it on and the tubes warmed up. And the first station I heard was Zulu Lima 2, Quebec, Quebec. ZL2QQ is the first ham operator I ever heard on a ham radio. And when Earl told me he was in New Zealand, I was addicted immediately. Back to you, sir. Thanks for having me, KC1QPL. Coming to you tonight from Burlington, Vermont.
Burlington, okay. Have a good day, John. Always a pleasure to talk with you. Last on this list, N3, TJK, Timothy in Pasadena, Maryland. Good evening. TJK, are you still with us? With nothing heard, let's take some more check-ins. More check-ins for the East Coast Reflector TechNet. Please come with your call sign twice.
KO4FRR, KO4FRR.
J Kilo R Romeo 4 C Charlie G Golf KR4 CCG Jim Longwood, Florida.
November 2 Kilowatt Trot Alpha Pete in Arlington, in Alexandria, Virginia. Over. N6QDY, N6QDY.
All right, let's hold it up there for just a moment. We had N6QDY, David in Sacramento.
We had a KR4CCG, Jim, KO4FRR, Joe, and that station coming in, it sounded like N2KTA or something like that. Could you give me that call sign twice, please?
Sorry about that. This is November 2, Kilowatt Foxtrot Alpha. November 2, Kilowatt Foxtrot Alpha. Pete in Alexandria, Virginia. Over.
We got you that time, Pete. That sounds better. And Alexandria, looks like you're new to the system. Welcome. Anyone else looking to get on the list here, please come with your call sign twice.
KC3BRR, KC3BRR, Jefferson County, Pennsylvania. W5GUD, W5GUD, Keith in Montgomery, Texas.
Alrighty, let me recognize W5GUD, Keith, KC3DRR, Nicholas out in Sinkin Spring, Pennsylvania, and we had N6QDY, David. Is there anyone else? Last call for the East Coast Reflector TechNet. Come now before I run the list with your call sign twice. Well, with nothing heard, let's go to the top of this list. The question of the day is, what got you into ham radio? Let's go to KO4FRR, Joe, one of our team members here at the East Coast Reflector in Sorrento, Florida. Good evening, Joe.
Well, good evening, Scott. This is Joe, KO4FRR. I will have to give this to my grandmother. Playing with electronics, taking things apart, putting things back together. Hopefully things still worked. But my grandmother had a friend that was giving away ham radio equipment, and I was like, not at the time, but 1 year later, I'm like, does she still have an equipment? And apparently they go quick, so I should have got it when he had it. But work and school got into the way. COVID gave me 2 to 3 hours, because I ended up working from home, so I had that extra time to test out a SDR, and I'm like, hey, I want to talk to WB2JPQ, and I'm now helping the East Coast Reflector with Dick. And my grandfather was also a ham too, so there's that. I'll talk to everyone later, and have a good evening.
Alrighty, thank you, Joe. Appreciate you joining us, and have yourself a good night. KR4CCG, Jim in Longwood, Florida. Good evening.
Good evening, sir. Thanks for the net and the opportunity. Well, when I was a kid, I was heavy into CB. Of course, that was when there were 23 channels. It was back in the 70s when it was very, very, very popular. And then life happened, and I got out of it. And I picked up a couple radios once I had a granddaughter. She liked to play around because they were FRS, which kind of led me down the road to GMRS. And then a year ago this month, I got my GMRS license. Got on a very popular GMRS net here, which is loaded with amateur radio operators also. Excuse me. And they talked me into taking the test, and there's a lot of other things that happened. Of course, I went down that rat hole, and here I am on a TYT with OpenGD 77 on it, coming to you through a little hotspot I put together that they helped me with. And I'm still exploring. It's all brand new for me.
There you go, and it never ends. That's the good thing about it. Have a great night, and thanks for joining us. Don't be a stranger. And to KFA, Pete in Alexandria, Virginia, good evening.
Good evening, this is Pete in Alexandria, Virginia. Right now, how I got started was actually my older brother and father bought a shortwave radio when I was about 7 or 8 years old, and they started playing, and we did that for a couple of years, and then I sort of went the way of all flesh with radio, and then by chance, I happened to get involved with some guy, my Elmer actually, as it turned out, who when I was in my 40s and 50s, got me involved in ham radio, so it was really nice. The other thing I'm going to say is, I think I'm calling a station near Watertown, New York. I used to live in Watertown, New York, many years ago in the 1960s, and I really had a great time there. And the thing I love about all of a sudden about Watertown is the weather. I loved having snow. Anyway, so just mark me in and out, please. This is N2KFA, back to net.
Alrighty, well, thank you for joining us, Pete, and don't be a stranger. Yep, it certainly gets cold up near Watertown. Have a good evening. This is W2BLT. Next up, N6QDY, David, Sacramento, California. Good evening.
Hello, Scott, Vicky, everybody on the net, everybody in the Zoom control room, N6QDY. Yeah, I'll make it real short. Like a lot of other people, Citizens Band got involved with that years ago when I was a child. So, anyways, that's what it was, Citizens Band. Hey, have a good evening. Thanks for what you guys are doing. N6QDY, back to net control.
Alrighty, David. Enjoy the rest of your evening. You've got more of it than we do. Have a good night. KC3TRR, Nicholas in Sinking Spring, Pennsylvania. Good evening. KC3TRR, are you still with me, Nicholas? He might have had to run. Last on this list, W5 at GUD, Keith in Montgomery, Texas. Good evening, Keith, and welcome.
Well, good evening to the net. This is actually my first call on here. I'm a relatively new technician, about 2 months. Years and years ago, my grandfather was W5GUD, and he was a ham for over 50 years and was very influential with me. My love for two-way communication radios. My whole career I've used radio equipment, and I kind of winding down at the end of the career, and we started traveling a lot more. So my wife and I were looking for a way on the road to communicate, and we got our GMRS license, and I decided if I was going to take it that far, let's take it the next step. So I tested, got my technician's license. 2 days later, I applied for a vanity call sign, and a blazing 18 days later, was able to take over my grandfather's call sign, which I'm very honored to do. Thank you guys. Have a great evening.
Alrighty, thanks for joining us, Keith. We appreciate it, and stop by often. We're here every Tuesday night, 8 o'clock. Alrighty, I'm going to go out on the limb here. Is there anyone else wants to get in tonight? Please come with your call sign twice.
K2 SBM with a recheck. I missed when you called on me last time.
Kilo Echo 0 Quebec Golf Delta Joel.
Whiskey Delta 8, Papa India Charlie, WD8PIC.
8 Golf Lima Bravo, Chavis, Northern Michigan.
Alrighty, we'll hold it up there. Recognizing from the bottom up, we had KE8 GLB, Chavis, WD8PIC Bob, KE0 QGD William. At the top of this list, K2 SBM. Question of the evening is, what got you into ham radio? Good evening, Sean.
Appreciate you taking my check-in and the recheck. I goofed up last time, and when you called on me, I keyed up and I gave a 45-second story about my what got me into ham radio, and then I looked over at my radio, and I was transmitting on the other band that I have in my radio. I got a 2-band little radio here, so I told somebody over in Mount Airy, North Carolina, my whole 45-second story. I'll cut to the chase. As a kid, I liked walkie-talkies. I got a Radio Shack SW100 receiver, which was a multi-band, 6-band receiver back in 1993. Fell in love with that thing. Found girls, lost all interest in radio. Got into firefighting, used a portable radio and radios in firefighting. And then a year and a half ago, a buddy of mine walked into work with a Baofeng $25 belt, and I looked at that thing and was messed around with it, and then went on YouTube that night, and next thing you know, GMRS, and then technician, and I'm studying for my general. So that's my story. It's not a unique one. I think a lot of people have a similar story, but thanks for taking my check-in and my recheck. Hopefully I didn't screw up this time. So K2 SBM, back to you. Thanks so much.
Alrighty, thanks, Sean. Have a good night, and that's just something you learn. You're on the wrong band. Thanks for being here. KE0QGD William in Omaha, Nebraska. Good evening.
Good evening. This is KE0QGD. This is Joel. You did look my call sign up on QRZ. My first name is William, but I go by Joel. But no issue there. Got into ham radio when I was a kid. Built a crystal radio with my dad. Loved it. Yeah, it's the same story everybody else tells. You bought all the little red box kits at Radio Shack. Had a blast building radios. As a teenager in about 1974, I read a book by Ethelyn M. Parkinson called Today I Am a Ham, which is apparently a very collectible book because it goes for, it's a paperback, it's a 99-cent paperback from 1974, and they go for about 50, 60 bucks now on Amazon and eBay. But it's called Today I Am a Ham. That got me interested. I did get my novice when I was in high school. Pursued a career in broadcast radio, but did not go very far with that. And now in close to retirement, finally got my general class license and kind of picking up where I left off when I was about 17 years old. That's my story. I'm sticking to it. Hope my signal came in. I am coming through a repeater, and I believe this is probably a net on the East Coast Reflector or something. Can you just give a recap on what net this is?
This is K0QGD back to the net.
Why, certainly, Joel. This is the East Coast Reflector TechNet, held every Tuesday night at 8 o'clock. Has been for, I don't know, about 12 years, I guess, something like that. Never missed a Tuesday night. Thanks for joining us, and don't be a stranger. Next up, WD8PIC. Bob down in Sylvania, Ohio. Good evening, Bob.
Good evening. And, yeah, I got into radio early. My parents, I was 5 months premature and 1 pound, and one of the ways that my mom stimulated my brain was to always have a radio on. And so I got interested in radio at a very early age, and once I got old enough to understand it, I was, you know, playing with her radio and tuning around, finding the stations, and she'd always get mad because then she'd have to find the station again. And when I was real little, you know, I couldn't help her find it because I'd flip the dial someplace else, and then she wouldn't be able to find her station again. I don't remember it, but I've been told the stories. But then I had a lot of health issues as a kid, so they're under control now with medication, and some diligence in staying away from things that bother allergies and whatever. But anyway, so I listened a lot to shortwave and DX'd on the broadcast band, and then I got some radios that would be able to listen to the ham bands, and that really got me hooked when I was about 7 or 8. I learned the code around 8 or 9 from my dad, you know, with my dad, and became a ham in 78. I'll be 64 on the 19th, so you can figure it out how long I've been a ham. Novice in 78 and general in 1980. And the rest is history. And the only thing I have never done in my life yet is played with a crystal radio or a diode radio. I've always had something with an amplifier. You know, I've read about it. And I had Boy's first, second, third, and fourth books of radio and electronics by the Alfred Morgan, if I remember right. I had those in Braille because I'm totally blind. Back to net control, WD8PIC.
Hey, Bob, quite a story. You have yourself a good evening, and thanks for joining us. Last one on this list, KE8GLB, Chavis in Houghton Lake, Michigan. Good evening.
All right, this is KE8GLB in Northern Michigan, and I got started similar to how everyone else spoke here at the CB back in the 90s, early 90s. We put up a big tower to communicate because we didn't have cell phones. And I've been in radio ever since. I'm a bit of a fanatic. I'm at no code extra, but we're resolving that with this electronic keyer here. So we're learning Morse code pretty quick and moving up in the world here. I'm looking forward to doing, code, since I got in here without code, and I should have turned this down. I appreciate everyone out there running the net. I see you guys are working hard. It's a pretty long net. Good on it, and we're not going to hold it up too long, so we'll be around. KE8GLB, back to net.
Thanks for joining us. I appreciate it. This is W2BLT. Any stragglers out there? Anybody looking to join us late tonight? Come with your call sign twice.
This is K8PRO. Kilo 8 Papa Romeo Oscar. Mobile.
Alrighty, there was a station coming into Orlando
but you had no audio at all, as that was a station trying to get in. And we got the K8BRO Paul Mobile in Stockbridge, Michigan. So let's go to Paul. Paul, you're going to end the night for us. What got you into ham radio? And good evening.
Everybody else, my dad was he had a big tower with beams, and I went from CBs to FRS, and then a buddy of mine actually tricked me into it. We could get our ham license and start talking on ham radio. Well, what the heck is ham radio, you know? So I ended up getting my technician in general all in one setting, and my friend that took me, got me into ham radio. He only made technician, and he just let his license expire, and I chewed his butt out. I go, hey, you got me into this, now you freaking abandon me? But anyway, it all started out with CBs back in the 70s, so it's K8BRO, and now I'll return it back to that.
Alrighty, thanks for joining us, Paul. We appreciate it. We appreciate everybody that checked in with us tonight. Whether you had a question, whether you were new to the system, or just wanted to say hi. We appreciate it. For Dick, WB2JPQ, Vicky, KE8VKY, and Roger, KO4QMM, this is Scott, W2BLT, wishing everybody a great evening, and we'll see you next week.